times today for our account limit, and it's like we have not posted in 6 days.
We've not posted at all.
But I just refreshed it and it works, so we're good. We're also live now. Hello.
Thank you.
Welcome.
To last week tonight.
Marcy is barking.
I'm just pulling up some. Marcy's been a little goona. I'm just pulling up a couple things. We'll talk about these in just a second. But welcome. It's Wednesday. It's going to be looking at the market day. And like getting an idea of what the fuck's been going on. We've had a pretty intense weekend last weekend as far as price action goes. And I feel like there's a lot of macroeconomic stuff going on, and I guess news events even that seem to kind of have a bearing here. At least people are holding their breath for them. And of course, we had a huge version of what was it? The SEC came up with a bunch of dropping a bunch of cases that they had. They had sent wellness checks and stuff to lots of projects, including Uniswap. I think it was Pulse Chain definitely got one. But anyway, lots of stuff in DeFi, was being investigated by the SEC, and a lot of those investigations have concluded now, and are basically not going to be pushing forward anymore, which is generally really fucking good news for those projects, and I think is very valid for some of them and kind of bullshit for some of the other ones. Some of the projects being invested, I think, deserve to be investigated, and maybe would have turned over some criminal activity or at least some questionable stuff. Whereas other projects such as Uniswap, it's Uniswap was never selling unregistered securities. They were just publishing open source code. So that one makes sense that they would drop it. But I guess kind of unilaterally across the board, just like how the SEC has kind of been attacking everybody in crypto for the last few years, it seems like they just kind of fucked off across the board now. So in the same way that they were completely, indiscriminate about sending wellness notices to people who were definitely deserving and to people who definitely were not deserving, it seems they've kind of just cut the shit across the board now. So I don't know if that's necessarily good or bad, but it is happening. So that's some big news that happened this week, with a lot of ramifications, I would say, in the crypto industry. So the fact that, Uniswap isn't under investigation, or the fact that Justin Sun or Pulse Chain, which I forget the name of the guy who's involved with that one, but all those chains that, are basically I don't know. Personally, I would consider them borderline Ponzi models when you look at something like Pulse Chain. But, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it, honestly. I'm I'm kind of happy that they're leaving Uniswap alone, but at the same time, I would have liked to see the whole illicit activity kind of being cracked down on a little bit more, rather than just across the board being nope, everything's okay now.
I think more regulation's good.
I do too.
Having the rules to understand how to operate within is important. The main issue is that the rules have been unclear for a long time. So I think, I don't know, doubling down on it's also I don't know, you can investigate Uniswap. That doesn't mean they're guilty. Then if they prove that they're doing everything above board, that just creates, something for the rest of the industry to look at is how to do things properly.
Yeah, exactly. Which that's definitely how they should go forward, I think it's fine for them to be investigated, but for them to be implicated as facilitating something that they clearly weren't from the very start, that was always annoying. But I was never really that upset about the SEC investigation, because like you said, if there's no crime or something, then it shouldn't matter that they get investigated. They should be happy to prove that they're not doing that stuff, and it's not difficult to prove when the entire ledger is, public. So it's not there's secret stuff happening and you have to cook the book somehow when you can't, when it's all on a public blockchain. So it would have been, I think, Uniswap would have been vindicated through the proper channels. And instead of it being vindicated that way, it's now vindicated as part of a blanket vindication of all crypto projects that were under investigation, and it doesn't feel great to me. But like Lewis is saying, I prefer there be more defined regulations versus they're just like, fine, we just won't investigate anyone, which is kind of like what the tone has shifted to now, which isn't my favorite thing to be happening in crypto. But you can see what's happening in crypto looking at the Bitcoin market right now. Let's just dive right into it, right? So looking at the Bitcoin weekly chart, you can see we've definitely kind of like pushed out of our RSI, like was it over? It pushed into, I guess, the oversold range here. So on the bottom of this blue area, you could consider the strength index as oversold, whereas above the blue area it would be overbought, and looking for like a reversal. So now with this last like 2 weeks, especially of volatile downward action in Bitcoin, you can see that we're kind of running out of steam for that happening. It's also sort of being displayed here by, this current week's candle not quite being able to push as low. So volatility calming down and us basically trying to find this rebound. Not to mention our weekly strength band is actually like holding as support still. So this is still finding bullish support. It's more volatile than I'd expect to see. Get out of here. With it's more volatile than I would expect to see normally. I mean, a weak candle like this with a wick that is, the wick starts here and drops to here. That's a 16% just in the wick. So lots of volatility for an asset like Bitcoin. I mean, even looking at previous weeks, you don't often see candles quite that large. And so, especially in recent history, looking at the last few years at least of Bitcoin here, 2023 being the front of this graph now, a lot of the blood in the market right now, a lot of like new blood at least, is used to this kind of like upward movement. And looking at the last few years, you definitely haven't seen any of those, like 20% candles all red on a single week here. So seeing that multiple weeks in a row definitely is causing a lot of stir here in like the at least in the forum side of like the retail investor crowd. Like at least a lot of the stuff I'm reading, a lot of people are hurting, bleeding down a little bit, feeling the pain of a red market here and then having a hard time also separating the timeline of this a little bit. It looks like the end of the world, but then again, when we zoom out, it actually looks relatively like we haven't lost our bullish sentiment just yet. We haven't switched to print. We haven't even like closed below the support band here. We had actually closed below it a little bit when we were just kind of ranging and slowly bleeding down. But this quick bleed down, we've never actually pushed and stayed below just yet. Of course, the fight's not over, I would say. It does look like on the weekly we want to rebound a bit. And I think if we go a little closer now and look at the daily, we'll get a similar kind of like, or I guess we'll get a closer look at least. And here you can kind of get a better appreciation for the volatility, where you can see like this is in the course of like one day, the market on Bitcoin jumping huge, the next day dropping off again. This happened over the weekend. So if you weren't paying attention this weekend, on Sunday, Sunday on the 2nd, we had Bitcoin kind of like bounce back after, the previous couple days having seen a low of under 80K, which is pretty aggressively low, even for like the bull market. Obviously, if we didn't recover as aggressively quickly as we did, our weekly wouldn't look as bullish as it still does. If we actually had pushed down to under 80K and then stayed here, this would have flipped our sentiment pretty quickly. But what happened was on Sunday, so over the weekend while the rest of the world's markets were closed, we got like a big retest pump. Generally, pumps on the weekend are a little questionable because, like I said, the rest of the world markets are closed and it's a lot harder to flow like the deep amounts of liquidity that flowed during market trading hours in a week. But what happened was there was I think like Trump tweeted about some kind of like Bitcoin reserve again, which has already been floated a few times now, suggesting that the United States government would maintain I think in the initial announcement that I've read, it was a stockpile of crypto assets to basically gain an edge and eventually help pay down their deficit. It's very not well like defined yet what this kind of like reserve would be, and even if or I'm sorry, not reserve, stockpile, what this stockpile would be. And then on the weekend, then he basically, so the stockpile kind of like concept was written out as a what is that called? An executive order even. And that happened not this weekend, but like already like a week or so ago. So the market didn't crazily react to any of that, and it is actually selling off during that kind of like, you know, the actual making of that executive order. And then on the weekend there came a tweet from the like the Trump account again about this, and in this tweet he called it, instead of a stockpile, a reserve. Which the difference between those things, if you're talking like, I guess first of all, it's unclear to me that he understands the difference between those things, or if he's just using those terms interchangeably. But if he's not using them interchangeably, a stockpile would imply that it's a stash of assets that are acquired by the government through activity like drug busts or like criminal seizures. You know, like when the Silk Road, for example, was busted by the feds, they seized, you know, like $50 million worth of Bitcoin, and then that Bitcoin was auctioned off again into cash for the government to basically sell it. You know, so a stockpile would be a concept that, rather than selling the assets that you acquire through that type of activity, such as seizures or other sort of like, you know, attaining these crypto assets through, you know, enforcing laws, basically. That the basically what it would mean is, instead of selling it back, we would just keep it. The government would keep it in a stockpile. And then the difference between that and a reserve is, a reserve would be basically, instead of just filling this, you know, this account with money that the government has seized through like, you know, law enforcement activity, a reserve would basically be filled with money or with assets that are purchased with tax dollars. So like actually the government buying crypto off the market versus just not selling it. So on the tweet on the weekend, he posted something about a crypto reserve, and even specifically mentioned this time the assets that would make up the reserve. I think it was like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana,
like Cardano in there.
Oh, and ADA, yeah, Cardano, which that came out of left field.
XRP and Cardano were like, why are these in here?
Right. The XRP I could see a little bit more, like, because it's at least like made by a company headquartered in the US, and the like CEO of that company has been like courting Trump, like, and the administrator has been like, you know, it's a donor and stuff, I guess. So like he kind of bought himself participation in that. But ADA just feels like you're pumping some kind of bag. Either way, the tweet came as a tweet. It wasn't a policy, and it wasn't an executive order. It's just reiterating the intention that was laid out by the initial like executive order about the stockpile, and this time naming specific crypto assets. That definitely fueled, I think, like a rebound, which was already looking to happen. So like looking at the daily chart, we got that big sell off, and look at how oversold we ended up being on the on balance, or not on balance volume, on the SRSI. So we were definitely like running out of steam on the way down, looking to probably like rebound maybe a little and then continue the rebound slowly. But this huge pump, I think, was more or less fueled by that kind of like market sentiment being pushed forward by these like, you know, tweets that happen on a weekend during times of low liquidity. And I think that's further like confirmed by the fact that when the markets actually opened the next day, we basically just sold right back off to like before all that nonsense happened. So it basically feels like weekend shenanigans, but the volatility here does paint a picture of like a market that is a little more uncertain now and is ready to rebound a bit, especially after, you know, several weeks of continued sell pressure. So with all that in mind, we are still not totally bearish on Bitcoin yet, although it is starting to look a little less, you know, green than it had been. With these big wicks, it's maybe now that we've rebounded to over 90,000 again, not the worst idea to like off risk if you hadn't had the chance before. So if, you know, like a decent amount of my Bitcoin, I actually had ended up selling around 95,000. So you're not that far from that right now, you know, at 90,000, but you would have been pretty far from it if you decided to do that at 80,000, for example. So again, you don't have to sell it all. You don't have to sell anything or to buy anything. But if you feel like when you saw the price of crypto falling as aggressively as it has over the past 2 weeks, and you felt overexposed or like you were losing too much and you couldn't handle it, or you were losing sleep or anything like that, this might be a decent opportunity to like start thinking about potentially off risking yourself. And what we're looking for is a lower high to form here, especially on the daily chart. We can kind of see that here. So we had been, climbing, always higher highs, higher lows, until we, peaked with Bitcoin around close to 110, close to 108,000 here on the Coinbase chart. That would have been, I was going to say, our like peak, but not really. See, like this guy here did make a higher high still. But you can see that was the first time we started making like lows. And then I would say we were starting to range here. So basically, once we hit this peak, once we crossed like 85K or so, we were in this range between like 85K and 110K, kind of pushing up and down. Bears are kind of like building themselves a base. And then that's where you can see here recently, when we did do that drop below that 85K, then it did kind of accelerate pretty quickly over the course of a few days. And I feel like, faking out a few of the paper hands, if you want to use those kind of terms. But similarly, you can see now what we're looking for is if we're going to rebound here, push up on the daily and run out of steam on the rebound before we cross our strength band here. So before we cross like 95K or so, which would have been more or less the bottom of this, range where the bulk of this downward price action is finding support. You can kind of see that just visually looking at this chart where, get out of here, seriously. Where every time we do pull back, once we are like over 85K, we are kind of like bouncing around this range here. So that range, if I grab my ruler, you could kind of be like, is this range here? So this like red range that I'm marking out now would be more or less kind of like the bottom of this, old range. And if we're not going to be able to reclaim this range and push higher, which it might be the case if we are going to continue bearishly, then this range is a good place to consider off risking some, or maybe even opening short positions if that's what you're into. But basically what we're looking for now and watching for is a confirmation that that's actually what's happening. So we want to see, this daily volume or this daily price kind of push back up here and be rejected, and then potentially, push back down lower. It'll probably retest this lower level. And if we're going to make lower lows, then it'll push back below, where we dropped here, below 78, which if we look at the previous, the previous peak here is 74, 73. So then, similarly how I drew this range, then that becomes basically the bottom of this next range here. So then we're looking for selling or shorting or off risking around, between 90 and 95K, and re-entering between 72 and 77,000 or something like that, re-entering right around here. But we'll have to see again. I want to see the confirmation first. And we are basically, getting lower lows. This isn't a lower high. And then finally lower low. Now we're looking for, like I said, lower high. Going now to the ETH chart and the altcoin market, it's a lot more bearish and a lot clearer in its pattern of lower highs and lower lows. Basically from the peak here, you can see we've pretty clearly been making lower highs, lower lows. We were looking for or hoping for, I'd say, for this cup and handle to potentially play out, but with the bottom of the cup being around here, this would have had to be the bounce, this zone here. When we lost that, you can see again aggressive drop, and then similarly to Bitcoin, where we had a kind of like a scam pump on the weekend here, and with this one you can almost see it very clearly that it's just short-term volume that didn't last 24 hours, because you can see as my cursor moves here, this is kind of the like rounding curve that's happening here, and you could straight up ignore this pump almost, because we did get here and then sure we pumped back up really nicely, but not a higher high, still a higher or lower high, and then we sold off, and literally the next day back where we would have been if this candle didn't pump up, if this was more or less flat the way it had been here. This is short-term volatility. It reeks a little bit of like, I don't want to say outright market manipulation, but definitely a market influence through media posts. And I do think generally I like to, be informed more by the chart than by the media, but there's also lately been a lot of media specifically directed at these markets and at fiscal policy that directly affects trade finance. And so in those events, the news does matter on these kind of short timelines. Like you can see, this is a really short time. Like if we didn't pay attention to the news and we missed this whole like last week, like it wouldn't have fucking mattered at all, because it only mattered on those 2 days basically. Other than that, we're basically continuing exactly what we're seeing here: lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs. And so just like with Bitcoin, what we're looking for now is for, on the weekly, we've a little oversold. We've had quite a bit of a sell-off now from the peak. And so we are looking for that to, hopefully kind of bounce here. You can see we have been pushing below with these wicks, below where the previous bounce happened here. And now what we're looking for is, a retest and likely a lower high. So in the coming few days or weeks, I would say it's not out of the question that we see some green days coming back into the crypto markets. But what we want to really see is, are those green moves able to maintain the momentum and the price points that, push us up to making higher highs? And so since we are forming, lower highs, this is maybe even a double top here, which could then become bearish and the signal of the flip around here. But either way, we've definitely made a lower low on the weekly now. And so we're looking for a lower high to confirm that trend. And just like with Bitcoin, that lower high, when you can see we kind of recover a bit, but we're also slowing down on that recovery, maybe that'll be our opportunity to exit a little bit more from positions that we no longer want to be.
You keep clicking the ad-free thing?
Yeah, it keeps popping up. I'm like,
why do you click the upgrade thing? That's what takes it to the other window.
I just hit back to go back. Otherwise, I don't know how to get rid of it. It's like
I thought you were clicking. Like it appears as if you're clicking the upgrade to ad-free thing, and that's why it's like, I don't know if that's what happened. You click back, but looks like you're clicking the button.
I guess let's see what happens next time. It just randomly will pop up, like trying to prompt me to upgrade. But let's see if I can get rid of it next time.
Aren't you on a paid account though?
I am on my other, like on my max@gmail.com. I lost my subscription, so no. This is just a free account. So you could do everything I'm doing here on a free account as well.
Should we look at the crypto summit that's coming up?
That was the thing I was going to say. So with this in the market now, we are looking for a bit of a rebound, looking to make lower highs, but definitely looking to rebound a bit. It has been a bloody red few days, and it's a little strange to see all that happening as the DXY also sells off. So if we go to the DXY, you can see DXY tanking while stocks are tanking, while crypto is tanking. That's unusual. If just to remind everyone, the DXY is the US dollar strength. So basically US dollars are getting weaker and equities are getting weaker. Generally speaking, when equities get strong or weaker, when dollars get weaker, equities get stronger. People sell their dollars and buy assets with them. The assets appreciate, the dollars seep down. But so this is a little bit of a strangeness happening where we're seeing both of those markets kind of taking a little bit of a dip. Either way, we've had several months now here, like about 2.5 months of sustained downward motion on the altcoin market. This is the ETH chart. Same goes for the Bitcoin market. We've sold off on our SRSI, so our strength index is feeling oversold. So we are looking to rebound. It's not necessarily going to rebound and make a new high or push into new Bitcoin like all-time highs or start a new bull run. So it might give us a nice push, and especially short term, give us like more volatility. And like Liz said, that's going to help, or there's going to be a fuel to that volatility fire again this week when there is a crypto summit for the United States, hosting some kind of like crypto summit about the future of cryptocurrencies. Yeah, there you go. You're pulling this up. That's great. That's on Friday. So again, right before the traditional markets close, before the liquidity starts to like damper down. Friday, I almost feel like you can guarantee at this point that once the stock markets close, there will be big announcement stuff happening about what potential like assets get added to the reserve, or the format of something that's like that the United States is interested in buying Bitcoin, or some nonsense news like that, or maybe non-nonsense news, but some news like that hitting the newsosphere here. Right as traditional markets close. So I'm expecting a volatile weekend. Interested to see what what the speakers at this conference are going to talk about. And I'm also surprised to not see certain crypto projects here, like Crypto.com. I don't see their CEO on the list.
I'm going to read through this so we can.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe
Trump's White House Crypto Summit confirmed attendees so far is the name of this article on Cointelegraph. Says Trump's first White House Crypto Summit confirms key industry leaders fueling speculation over potential U.S. Bitcoin reserve policy announcement. As U.S. President Donald Trump prepares to host the first White House Crypto Summit on March 7th, the industry is watching closely to see who will be invited. The roundtable scheduled from 6:30 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. UTC. What is that in normal person time?
6:30 p.m. Let's see. I bet that's after the market closes.
It is 10:30 a.m.
So it's not.
But
so after market opens, at least. Oh, Pacific time. Okay, that's pretty long into the market hours.
And then it's going for 4 hours,
So ends near the end of like trading hours. I guess near the end of extended trading hours.
It's expected to include more than 25 participants, including members of the Presidential Working Group on Digital Assets, according to Fox Business reporter Eleanor Terray. Terrett, I don't know how you say her name. As of Wednesday morning, Terray reported that 11 crypto executives and 2 White House representatives had confirmed their attendance. Unclear as of now who, aside from Bo Hines and David Sachs, will be in attendance, but if you go back to Trump's executive order, the Presidential Working Group also includes Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, Attorney General Pam Bondi, and the SEC Chair and CFTC Chair, and others. Here's the list of confirmed executives so far. Michael Saylor,
of course,
founder of Strategy. The Strategy, a company?
It's called MicroStrategy. Yeah, they invest into Bitcoin and offer like yield in Bitcoin to people. It's like an interesting model that works relatively well when the market only goes up. So it could be disastrous if we start getting like a year-long bull market again. But yeah, Michael Saylor, he owns shit tons of Bitcoin.
David Bailey is the CEO of Bitcoin Magazine, which I've never heard of.
Him, I don't know either.
Matt Huang is the co-founder of Paradigm. Also, have never heard of Paradigm. Mm-hmm. Now we're starting to get into things I've heard of. JP Richardson is the CEO of Exodus. I have heard of Exodus.
I interviewed with him. I interviewed with that guy like when they first launched their stuff and were looking for people to work with, but I was too expensive.
Kyle Samani is the managing partner of Multicoin Capital. Zach Witkoff is the co-founder of Trump-linked World Liberty Financial. Important guy there.
Oh, no.
Sergey Nazarov is the co-founder of Chainlink. I've heard of them. And then here's all your CEOs. Brian Armstrong, Coinbase. Vlad Tenev, Robinhood. Arjun Sethi, Kraken. Chris Marzalnik is the CEO of Crypto.com, who Max said he did not think would be attending, but very much is.
I didn't see his confirmation yet, but that's good to know.
And the CEO of Ripple. But, I mean, you got Coinbase, Kraken, Crypto.com. Those are pretty big hitters. And even Robinhood, which is...
Yeah, Robinhood does supply quite a bit of like crypto trade volume, and you can withdraw and deposit from your Robinhood crypto accounts these days, which is kind of cool.
We're missing what, like CZ, Binance?
CZ from Binance, or I'd say like the Winklevoss twins from Gemini. That's another major US-based exchange.
Here's unconfirmed, though, because there are invited people. The Vitalik, the Ethereum co-founder.
Vitalik Buterin, yeah.
Kathy Wood, who's the founder and CEO of ARK Invest. Jeremy Allaire, who's the founder of Circle. Paolo Arduino.
Those two are huge, Kathy Wood and Jeremy Allaire. Those companies are enormous. They're like big hedge fund.
CEO of Tether. Charles Hoskinson is the founder of Cardano. Anatoly Yakovenko is the founder of Solana. And Mark Anderson is the co-founder and general partner at Anderson Horowitz, an early investor in Ripple. What a random guy to have.
I guess so.
And for the White House, we have Bo Hines, David Sachs, Mark Ueda, and Caroline Pham are the 4 confirmed people. And then Pam Bondi, Scott Bessent, and Howard Lutnick are unconfirmed.
I'm not sure who any of those people are, and I'm still not seeing the Winklevosses, even though they donated money to Trump's campaign, which I was not super excited about.
Let's see. While Terry's list didn't include Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse, he previously hinted his attendance in a March 2nd post on X, soon after Trump's crypto czar Sachs announcement in the summit on March 1st. I will certainly continue to champion this while in Washington at the end of this week, Garlinghouse wrote. According to Trey, Trump's invites were emailed to attendees on March 4th. That's not a lot of time to give people.
No.
If it's on what, the 7th?
Yeah, that's this like week. It's on Friday.
Giving people 3 days to potentially travel internationally. Point that Garlinghouse is among the first executives to receive the invitation beforehand. A larger event is planned for those not invited. A larger invite-only reception is being planned across the street from the White House for those not invited to the roundtable meeting, Teray said, adding that the plans are not fully finalized and things could change. It seems very like last minute thrown together.
Yeah, it does. It seems like another one of those moves where it's like it's about creating the hype more than it's about like an actual like policy discussion or anything like that. But
it's still the first ever crypto summit at the White House, though, which is kind of a big deal.
Right. To some degree, I am happy about that kind of stuff. But at the same time, it's like the stuff that I was reading about the Crypto.com CEO too is like part of what he was hinting at is that he wants to do like a billions of dollars worth of CRO token as a like, you know, donation or investment into the United States, meaning like he's basically trying to be like add CRO to this stockpile fund and I'll just give it to you is more or less what it reads like to me. But then the since Crypto.com's blockchain Kronos is like you know, you vote with your locked Crypto.com token with your stake tokens, they floated a what is it called? Proposal to stakers, so to voters of Crypto.com holders, basically, to undo the burning event that happened like 3 years ago, where they burned like 70 billion CRO tokens from circulation. And now they're suggesting like, why don't we just mint those tokens again and then, you know, use them to become part of this thing, which is not a value proposition that I'm happy about. If I was a Crow holder, I would be pissed. I mean, I've mostly sold out of that ecosystem, but that's pity. You know, it's like, let's just undo a burn and then use that to like bribe our way into these things.
Yeah, it makes you question every burn that ever happens to the blockchain at that point. It's like, are we actually burning anything, or is
like,
this?
Why don't we?
How immutable
is buy this? The fucking tokens off your blockchain? Like that would be great for the holders and everyone else.
All right, keep reading this. It says Lutnick. Yeah. Let's see, who is Lutnick? Commerce Secretary of the White House. Lutnick hints at a potential U.S. Bitcoin reserve. Summit comes in anticipation builds over the Trump administration's stance on a potential U.S. cryptocurrency reserve. Trump's Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick, has hinted that Bitcoin may receive special consideration under the administration's crypto policy. This is from the tweet from the Pavlovic Today. It says, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick tells Ksenia Pavlovic McAteer that the president, Donald Trump, will unveil a Bitcoin reserve strategy at the White House Crypto Summit on Friday.
Yeah, there you go. So that's going to be some kind of weekend news, pump the market shit, I feel like.
It says the president definitely thinks that there's a Bitcoin strategic reserve, Lutnick said, according to a March 5th report by the Pavlovic Today. Now there will be a question of how do we handle the other cryptocurrencies. And I think the model is going to be announced on Friday when we do that. So could be more than a nothing burger if that's true. I also don't know like the legitimacy of this guy tweeting. It's not even this guy tweeting. It's like somebody interviewing this guy's article on Twitter, which like, I don't know the legitimacy.
That's kind of how all of this stuff is though lately, where it's all very like shaky. It feels like you said, it all feels like very last minute, like they're just throwing shit together here. I mean, yes, the like underlying implication of this I think is great. As a crypto, like longtime crypto enthusiast, I like to see, a sovereign nation like the United States throwing a summit that acknowledges that these crypto assets have value. That's a huge win for like crypto, and something I wouldn't have put past like reality. Like something I wouldn't have assumed would happen when I first got into crypto. Like back then it was such a fringe nonsense to see it like having a summit with like international like attendees discussing, a sovereign national fund. That's not a small thing. But I have a hard time like not seeing it as like a little sketchy or shady, in the sense that it's being handled very much like it feels like an afterthought than like an executable plan. Like it doesn't feel like a platform as much as it feels like a reaction to, we can make money with this, let's do whatever we fucking can to squeeze that money right now. And it looks like BuzzKing's already aware of the CDC stuff. Yeah. That them trying to like mint 70 billion Crow tokens is insane. The proposal is rigged. Yeah, I mean, everything on that chain is more or less centralized. I mean, Coinbase.com owns the biggest stake of CRO tokens. So even if every single real person on Cronos voted no, the amount of CRO tokens that Crypto.com owns themselves for voting would outweigh the entire community vote. So it doesn't actually. So the vote's rigged too, is basically what I'm saying. Like
it's sort of similar to Wax, where like the user vote is not going to overpower the blockchain producer. I real quickly have a Crittercraft up here, !Neon. If you want to join, we'll do a giveaway and then get back into overall market stuff. But I don't know. It's kind of exciting. There's a crypto summit, like even if it's not the most legitimate thing and kind of seems last minute thrown together, but I think it's cool. I think it's cool that the government's...
I'm excited to see it, and I definitely want to be prepared for volatility. Is like my biggest takeaway from this. I don't know that this is going to pump the market up or collapse the market down. I feel like with the price action we've been been exposed to for the last 2 months, it's more likely that we get a retest pump than we get a like massive dump. Since we already had a massive dump, it'd be hard to like imagine another 30% cut from this market, but doesn't mean it's not possible. So, keep your wits about you as the weekend comes, because I think we're going to see volatility at the very least. We'll see like markets moving more aggressively. That can always be great for our liquidity farm positions or any sort of positions that we maintain that, profit from volatility. So, for example, like a straddle might be a good call for this weekend, by which I mean opening both long and short positions that are collateral, like option contracts, effectively. Stuff that has a max loss but no max win. And so, basically buy both long and short at the same time. And then as, let's say the market pumps on the weekend, your long is going to be going up a lot and your short is going to become worthless, but the worthless level of how much your short becomes worthless is capped here. So you're hoping for enough volatility to move the long, up more than the short drops down. And so the goal would be to, cover the loss of the cost of both the long and the short, and then have enough excess on the upside to still profit. Generally that's a option straddle, or just it's called a straddle. You don't have to use options for it, but that might be something I'm looking to try this weekend a little bit more of. But before that, I also want to take a look at, with this current market moves, what were we looking for in the short term, and what are we now expecting in the medium term or long term? What does this mean moving forward? Right here I have up the daily chart for Ethereum. And so here you can see we were kind of tracking this one. I posted this in the Maxi Discord a few days ago, even, where we're tracking this. This is a bear flag as the market's dropping on the daily chart, and you can see the bear flag would be, like here's the pole, this is the flag, and then when it breaks to a target that matches the length of the pole, and so that's what we are seeing happening here, playing out. So the pole, drops us to like 2K for ETH. And we did wick to around there, so that this more or less has played out now. And so what's the next step? Well, looking at the monthly chart now. So in this chart, each of the candles is 1 month. You can see this goes all the way back to 2020 for ETH. But you can see that on that really huge time frame, ETH is in a giant wedge. And so we're basically at the bottom of this wedge now, with that 20, like the 2000, you can see those wicks going down to 2000. And then now the weekly chart is kind of like settling here, looking for that support. Again, we're looking to, rebound in the short term. And then this isn't the short term, like this rebound that Sid has drawn out here would cap out in like mid 2026, early 2027, if we get a rebound like this. But that would still keep us within this wedge. And then again, a wedge like this is generally a bullish pattern. And you can see similarly, you have, similarly to the bull flag or the bear flag that we just looked at, you have like the flag pole for the wedge, and the flag pole becomes the new target once we do finally break out of this. So we'll have to see if this is going to be the one that does play out. Then this is kind of like a longer term projection that we could keep an eye on. Obviously, everything kind of tends to move with Bitcoin. And so looking at the Bitcoin weekly chart, let's take a look at some projection mathematics there. This is the weekly chart for Bitcoin. This I shared, we shared this like 2 weeks ago already. You can see that the price action for Bitcoin, it's at 94,000 back here. So it hasn't quite done the dump, but here's kind of like the projection that this is called a fractal. So using the current price trend and then using fractal math to project what will happen next. This is kind of what the fractal suggested a few weeks ago. And then here is the current chart now with the same fractal still overlaid. So you can see how we've moved from, the price being here and the fractal saying we're going to drop, to like 80 or something here. And now in the next few weeks, there you go, dropping within the fractals like range, which is interesting to see. So we want to see if the fractal now is going to hold. If that does hold, then we're getting exactly what we just talked about. We're getting a retest to a lower high. You see? So like we'd get a retest here. We'd get another sell-off, potentially even spiking to a lower low still, continuing that sell-off into, again, this is 2025, so May, June, July. And then we wouldn't even get the breakout of this continuing upwards until a few months from now. So like it looks like late June or so would be where the fractal starts to see a breakout or a reversal. So this would suggest that for the next few months, we're going to see continued volatility with a general trend down until we form a new base, with that, base being 73K, which is kind of what we were looking at earlier when we were looking at the chart where I was like, we have room, we drop here, and 73K is the top of that range. You can see that's basically also the top of our previous, top or peak. If the fractal breaks, then we're looking at something like this instead. So here's the same chart that was overlaid here with the fractal. If the fractal breaks, still we're looking to see a rebound to make a lower high and then continuing to a lower low. But then if we don't get the fractal playing out where we then pull from the lower low into the up, into the breaking back into the bull market, staying bullish hopefully, then what we would be expecting to see is a potential like slower bleed down, something like this, pushing us back into, the lower levels of the previous bull market. So basically keeping our bottom of that previous kind of like range here, which if you'll remember was the handle range from our cup and handle pattern, where basically the bottom of that handle range would become like the floor of that bear trend here. So that would see us potentially pull all the way to 55K. That's a 50% pullback. That no longer represents a bull trend on the longer terms. That's certainly a bear market again. So again, the fractal is the bull market scenario. We still haven't flipped from a bull market fully to a bear market on these longer time frames. But if we are going to see a bear market, I wouldn't be surprised to see it play out something like this. If we are going to stay bullish in the medium term, like again, this chart only projects out to about July. If we're projecting positive movement by the end of July, then this fractal is kind of a nice indication of the direction we might be headed. So those are kind of like longer, I guess, medium to like midterm projections. But like I said earlier, what we're looking for now in the coming days is going to be, more easily to see on the Ethereum chart. We've basically played out our bear flag. So what we're looking for now is a retest, and therefore, a retest to a lower high to continue a downtrend. But of course, even on the daily chart being oversold like this, we have the momentum we've pushed out the momentum for selling off now. We've basically built up pressure to push back up, and all of that is aligning with this crypto summit, with these news events that are going to be hitting the news cycle as the liquidities dry up over the weekend. So all of that kind of spells potential for a decent pullback or rebound, and those rebounds can short term push higher than you would expect them to settle off. So which is then called a bull trap. Like the goal is for the bears to let the price recover and push the price even higher, so that bulls are like, oh, the down sell is over, I better ape back in, and then once they ape in, hank that shit all the way back down, just like we saw last weekend. So I mean, last weekend was really clear with that front, where so this thing fucking pops up, right? And now there is no way to click out of this. I don't see the X on this. So what I always do is just click either upgrade to, or I guess here, current plan. I guess it won't let me do anything if I click that. And so I have to click upgrade, which brings me to the page, and I just hit back. And then the ad cleared out, which I don't know. It's a little annoying.
You could turn off your ad blocker for that site and then probably fix it.
That's probably true. But yeah, here you have what I'm talking about. So if let's go even closer here and get a look at this on the few hour chart. Look at this in the course of 1 4-hour candle. We got this huge jump. If I go to the 1 hour, I bet it's literally within 1 hour or so, most of that price action happened. Then we had a decent amount of hours to kind of capture that price action if we were paying attention. And then you can see how, it dropped below the low where it was before it ever did this pump. And so, like I said, short term, seeing these kind of spikes is very possible, which is also why when you are playing this volatility, you should be aware that volatility is on the menu, meaning you don't necessarily want to go to Gains or GMX and open leverage positions, because the market can move so quickly in one direction or the other. Leverage can really fuck you in that scenario, because you could be correct that the market continues to drop, but during that quick spike all the way up, you could get fucking wiped out, and then it'll immediately drop back down like it does here. Let's say you went short here, at 22.74, this would have wiped out your short, and then today you would have been here, you would have been really happy if it didn't get wiped out. So building positions that aren't subject to volatility is going to be important, which I would prefer using option contracts for stuff like that. But yeah, with all that said, let's take a look at what we want to do with our positions. Looking at Wax really quick too here on the daily chart. Wax has had a nice recovery here on the daily. Let's go to the weekly. Yoink. Even that recovery though is a lower high, these peaks. We were seeing these highs. This might have been the first higher high, actually, since our range here. You see all of these are lower highs, lower lows, more or less the same low. Definitely not a higher low. Lower high, lower low. We got a higher high, a higher low. Nice. So this would have been our confirmation to enter for a long right here, where we're getting a higher low. And then we got our higher high again, which is what you're expecting. And now what we'd want to see, obviously, is a higher low again, which, we're trying to form here. But when we failed to do that, obviously, the market understands what that means, and dumped us back below, not just back to the previous floor, which would have been here, but then we've, started making new lows. And now, again, lower high, and looks like we're cooking for a lower low again. It feels not very amazing to see Wax kind of bleeding into obscurity. Although, on the plus side, at least, we're similarly to the rest of the market oversold. So in the coming week or so, I'd expect to get a similar retest pump, maybe even making a lower high again. So potentially we have room now for pumping from this 2.7 cents back up to 5.96 cents or something. So this is, a potential retest of almost 100% price appreciation, which would still keep us in a bearish sentiment here, because it would still represent a lower high. But it's not out of the question. We definitely have, the steam for selling off is on the oversold side of things. Going to the daily chart, similar story here. It's starting to be oversold. But you can also see, even these wicks just formed a new all-time low, I think, very recently, the last couple days. And so coming into the weekend and the crypto summit and stuff, despite Wax not being, having a presence at an event like that, Wax is still an altcoin part of this market and part of this liquidity environment. So I would expect to see if a pump or a dump comes into the greater crypto economy, would probably see it reflected also in Wax. So again, for the coming week in Wax, probably looking for a retest, potentially at the very least on the daily chart here, at the very least looking to come back to 3 cents, which isn't amazing, from where we currently are to 3 cents, gives us like a 12% pump. But either way, we're definitely on the side of this market now where hedging into cash or whatever would be a little bit of a like lag behind here. We would have been better served to do that, like I said, when we first saw here when we first saw our higher low failing, or higher high failing, which that was right there. Get the fuck out of here. So with that in mind, I don't think Wax is gonna continue to just unilaterally dump this week. So I do want some Wax exposure. Maybe let's take a look at what we have in our wallet and see what we want to do. So jump over to Alcor. I'm going to log out of yield farming and into DeFi1.ftw is our... There he is. Bam. Boom, bop, bam. Close that. All right. And so looking at what we have from last week, we're looking here. Looks like we have some FTW still that we didn't sell just in the wallet. Also some Rook that we probably had from when we remade our pools. And then it looked like from our pools themselves or from our farms themselves, we've now consolidated it down to just these 3. We're in Rook LS Wax, FTW LS Wax, and Neon Wax. 2 out of the 3 are pools that we have a direct affiliation with. So like Lewis was saying last week, it's not looking super amazing for yield opportunities on Wax. With that said, though, I will also say, looking at the pool side of this, our allocations to these pools are heavily favored not the token that we created ourselves. You can see there's only 50 Wax worth of liquidity in the Neon pool, close to that in the FTW pool, and then there's close to 600 Wax in the Rook Wax pool. Or in dollar terms, a little easier to understand, $1.50 in both of these and $17.50 in this one. So significantly, obviously, we've biased towards Rook LS Wax. And so let's take a look. How is that done for us this week? Looking at I'm gonna go over to Wax on Edge and take a look at the price chart, because I feel like they always have the better charts here. So I want to type in LS, or let's just do Wax because we'll get a better sense of this. Wax on one side and then Rook on the other side, and let's see if this chart has changed dramatically, or what we want is that it stayed more or less flat. Rook. Looking at it here. All right, we're on the 4 hour, which is not. Well, let's look at the daily chart too. It is more or less flat. It's a little bit of a volatility here. Looking at these candles, this amount of volatility, even though these candles look like kind of big, it's 1.8%. Even this entire range here is less than 6%. So this type of price movement, I'm totally fine with, because our liquidity is earning 70% APR in the farms, and this APR is paid out in a token that we don't have to sell to devalue our position in Rook. It's paid out in liquid stake Wax. So if we come here to claim Wax, you can see we've actually earned 10 LS Wax this week, all of it from this pool. That's great, considering we have 600 Wax in there, making 10 in a week. That's a 70% APR. So first thing I want to do is claim all these rewards as usual. Let's see, claim, sign the transaction, and we've claimed. Next thing I want to do is confirm that we have enough runway for the next week. So here, remaining time. Looks like still more than 2 months left on the Rook pool, great, and a month left on Neon, great. 22 days left on FTW, and that one generally resets on Sunday anyway. All of these have more than a week left, so I'm not in any position where I need to make sure I'm getting the fuck out of here so that I'm not just sitting in a pool that's not earning anything. And then the next thing I want to do is let's see if there's better opportunities, pools that we can earn higher APRs in without exposing ourselves to stupid assets that we have no idea about or that are going to get us fucked. So I just unchecked this staked only section, which was what we were looking at a second ago. And now we're going to see all of the other pools out here and what their APR is. 770 I'm already seeing right off the bat is pretty high. And if we're looking at the total staked side, the total staked of wax is almost 40,000 wax. So this pool isn't tiny for paying this big fat APR. I don't know what AGAR is, or AGAR. It's token.agar. So it seems like at least whoever made this token has the AGAR wallet. But 700% is not bad. And with all the APR we've made this week, maybe we can take what we've earned and throw it into something super high aggressive. And maybe because everything's in the toilet right now, maybe we end up doing quite well with it. It's super high risk, so I don't really want to do this with value that's worth much. Oh my. Oh my god. I was going to say we need to ape into this immediately, but no. This is because today is the 7th day, and so this pool just got issued rewards, and so pretty much no one's staked to this right now. So if you have TLM LS Wax liquidity, 15,000% APR is 100% worth participating in this right fucking now. So get up and do that right now if you have this token already. It also, here's one that's even more aggressive, but this is going to keep me from participating. This is not going to last all week, even though 13,000% is nuts. So by the way I've reorganized this chart is I've clicked this APR little arrow. So now we're organizing by highest APR paid. Next we have a few other pools. I don't recognize many of these tokens. I want to participate in a pool that is counterparted with either wax or USDT or USDC or something more. At least one of the assets I want to be semi-stable. And then what I am looking for is pools that have a little bit more volume or stake to them than a lot of these. Like this is 63 wax on the wax side. This is 0 USDC. These are all tiny pools, like $1. So even if we did add $1 to this, we'd immediately be cutting all these rewards in half because this is projected on, $2.20 worth of liquidity. So again, the pool that we saw earlier a minute ago, where it was offering 700% for 30,000 wax worth of liquidity, still seems to be the strongest candidate here. Checking out some of these other ones. These are both like I said, I want one side of this pool to be wax or USD or something more stable. I don't know what both of these coins. Well, I do know what one of them is, but I don't want to get into a pool like that. Period. Again, this one feels aggressive and nice, but 6 wax worth of liquidity. If you double that, this whole pool is 12 wax deep. This isn't going to cut it for me. So I do feel like what we were looking at already with that 700% is probably going to be the one we try this week. Yeah, not a whole lot. 200 0%. Interesting. Nothing else that's really jumping out at me, so let's get back onto that one. So let's do that for this week. I feel like that'd be a fun one. I'm gonna try and find that pool again. It is where was it? 800 350. It's also interesting that it'll organize these ones that say they're 0% above other higher APR pools because they are actually paying out. It's just that the market doesn't know what this payout is worth. But here's a Verd. I'm not sure what those are. But damn, these are fat APRs. But again, they run out in just a few days. We want something that lasts at least 7 days because we won't be messing with this until next week, Wednesday. Let's try 3 days. Nope. Where is that? All right, let's see if I can organize these based on.
What else has on the 23rd or 26th of March, we have Neon Heroes Alpha 4. I think
there it is. That is cool. Neon Heroes is a really fun game. Here's the one I was looking for. So this one has like a whole year worth of liquidity, and it's paying relatively well for how deep this liquidity pool is. Now I just want to see what the price action is. So it's AGAR? AGAR? Was it? Oh, well, not finding that. AGAR. It is.
Never heard of Agar.
Me neither. And it's not supported by Wax on Edge. And this is a like token list that generally is really up to date, except for like he'll remove scam coins from it. And this is made by Wapaka, by the way. And honestly, if I can't find it on here, I'm less inclined to dive in, because I think Wapaka pays closer attention to what is and isn't BS on this chain. And if it's not available on Wax on Edge right away, I'm not super excited to jump into it. But I am going to do it anyway. Let's see how it goes. I mean, and I'm only going to do it with the wax that we made from this week's APR. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through. I'm going to sell our Rook, our FTW, our LSW. And I think that's everything that's actually worth selling right now into wax. And then I'm going to try and sell the rest of that 50-50 into this crazy high liquidity pool. And let's see how that goes. So first things first, I'm going to swap back down like this. Obviously, I also got to log into the correct wallet. We'll go this one, wallet, launch. Okay. And then let's do some swaps here. 1.3 wax for that guy.
Rich.
Let's go.
It's like
rich,
3 cents worth of wax.
Yeah. One that used to be like a quarter. Let's see what we
got. At one point that was $1 for a very brief period of time in the Farmer's World hype.
FTW still cooking too. Let's see how much we got from that. 8.8 wax. That's crazy good. We only have 50 wax in that pool. Like, that's not bad at all.
I haven't checked. I wonder how like Alien Worlds is doing.
Oh yeah. I haven't checked that in a while either.
It's been a long time since I've done like a temp check on the classic projects.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. And then here we go. 10.114, that's 11. Okay, so now it looks like I'm gonna have 22 something wax. So that'll be a nice amount for us to play with without having to worry about that we're gonna lose something, because we're not putting anything other than rewards into this bad boy, and we want something high risk. It's a risky time right now. Market's absurd. So let's go back here. Pool. Farm. I want to see. I'm just going to organize by time remaining. There's this pool. It's the 0.03% pool. So now I'm going to go to swap. I'm going to look for this AGAR token. Token.agar. There it is. 50% of my 21.5 wax. I'm going to swap into this. Looks like there's plenty of liquidity for this. I'm taking pretty much no price impact at all, which is great. Swapped complete, and now I can come over here, and I already know it's the 0.3% pool since I just checked it. So I'm just gonna say new position, wax, agar. 0.3% is obviously the pool because it's the only one that has liquidity. I'm gonna stay with infinity range, and then supply all of this liquidity, like so. By doing that, it'll also automatically stake into this reward pool. Success. And now we should see it popping up in our farms in a second. If I go to staked only. Oh, whoops. It's just a little laggy. Oh, it's yelling at me to stake something. That's weird. Normally it'll stake that automatically. So I'm just going to refresh really quick. I want to make sure it's actually not staked.
Looks like Agar's only existed since March 3rd.
Yeah, it's some nonsense token I have no idea about. If I end up losing this, then okay, we lost like maybe a week and a little bit worth of rewards, which is a stomachable loss. But if it ends up doing crazy well, we'll be pretty stoked. So let's see. So here we go. So I've added this now. It's too bad it's not giving you a projection of how much. of the APR I should be earning, but obviously it's now going to be trickling in this token reward every day, and next week we'll be able to see what we've made. So moving into just the wallet now, I think. I want to see if we have anything left or if this is everything we wanted to do. Looking at the dollar value, looks like the only dust we have is under 1.7 cents worth, so it's not worth, I think, fucking with. Part of this WOOF token, by the way, is coming from airdrops that we're getting paid out from using Wax on Edge, because we didn't buy WOOF. Like, why is there WOOF in this wallet? Every time we trade on Wax on Edge, we get an airdrop at the end of the day in WOOF for our volume that day. So that's why we're slowly building up some WOOF in this wallet. That's why there's 1.5 cents of it. It's just kind of cool. Also, some of these other tokens, I don't know how they ended up in here, like chips. THC we farmed for a minute. Honey we messed with for a bit.
I'm trying to figure out what the fuck this token is. It's got like account history of stuff happening in February of 2025, so it's been around for a month. There's something called Agar's Woods NFT. I was sending stuff back and forth, and then it's created by an account just called Agar. But I mean, that's like it's a custom.
Yeah. Custom wallet name. So they're at least doing that, which is like, okay, if you're going to be doing that and paying 700% APR, I'm making a 1.5 of this Agar per day on my 21 Wax, which, let's see, how much is that going to end up?
I believe it's from the collection Agar Wood.
Agar Wood. I'm not sure I'm familiar with that one.
Oh, there we go. Agar Woods NFT. Which immediately looks super fucking like CGI, or not CGI, but like AI made. It's created on 2/26/2025. I'd be willing to bet this is a scam.
Yeah, I think so.
It says it's a blockchain-based farming simulation game where players cultivate, stake, and harvest earn Agar tokens on the WAC blockchain.
Okay.
But the weird thing is, like, this is like the type of scam that I feel like you would have seen like 2 years ago. But like, it's been a long time since I've even seen someone try to like pitch a new project on Wax. That's like, oh, this is a new like staking game. It's not a thing you see super often. Yeah, I don't believe they have a website or anything. It's just like they're like, yeah, trust me, bro. This shit exists. Oh wait, here, visit website. I'm gonna flip over to my screen so we can look at it.
Yeah, flip over. Let's see. I'm curious. I mean, I went into it for the nonsense LP side of it, but hey, anything look at that. That's more than I expected to exist, to be real.
It's bad though. Like, why is this permanently shaded? I thought this was gonna.
It's more than I thought it would be, honestly.
A innovative Web3 NFT farming game built on the Wax blockchain, where players harvest Agar tokens by owning and staking unique Agar NFTs. Players can interact with the Agar Wood game, farming Agar tokens as a reward for their in-game activity. The game's economy is designed to provide a sustainable and engaging experience for all participants, creating a long-term and thriving ecosystem.
Okay. I mean,
basically all buzzwords.
It's nothing I haven't fucked with in the past, I'd say. I don't expect this to do crazy well. Oh yeah, Agar Wood, you're right.
Super stretched out fucking banner. Whoever made this is not a good graphic designer.
Yeah, that's not my favorite formatting.
Stake on Waxtao. I mean, I would advise people against doing anything with this personally. Not that anybody asked me, but
let's see. What's that? 2
issued 1
billion tokens, huh?
50 million have been supplied. 50 million are
okay. Honestly, like,
they're an about who made this. That's the other like big red flag, is there's no creator of this. It just exists. Also, the fact that the wallet, like the parent wallet that made all these sub accounts, has existed for like a month is also a red flag. Is like,
yeah.
I mean, I guess we'd have to see who created it. I don't really care to track this down, but I mean, we could look at like Agar is made by Agar Woods NFT, and then we see who made Agar Woods NFT, and it's like you can maybe track this down to like Agarwood.za. What the fuck is a .za account?
Also 19 days ago.
21 days by ZA. 5 years. So this is someone that has been on Wax for a while. Who the fuck owns just ZA though? That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's a OG. It seems like.
I'm creating accounts. What is? We got their Bybit Wax only.
Okay.
Person's kind of just been loitering with this account for years without doing anything. Johan.za right. They made. Maybe their name is Johan.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know.
I feel like if they do want to make anything like on Wax and it does any sort of movement at all, I'm excited to see it. Let's see. There hasn't been anything at all that I've been like looking at on Wax. I also would say if you're looking for something like to get involved with, look for something else maybe. But
I'm just trying to like figure out the legitimacy of this thing.
All right.
Doesn't seem to be a game. Like you can stake shit on WaxDAO and then craft stuff, which is probably also going Nefty blends. I mean, they're like gamifying Wax tools. Atomic, what's the marketplace going to link to?
Cool, but that's definitely not like that's not going to turn into a gameplay experience. That
it also does not give you like I could make this. So far, 100% of this I can make by myself. It's not necessarily made by like a game developer or someone who has any idea what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. The only thing that would draw people into this is if the token suddenly was worth a shit ton of money and they felt like they could make money with it, which is a scam.
I would guess this is going to end up being a rug pull. There's still 50% of the supply of the tokens is not minted, so mint that in their own wallet and just drain the liquidity pool would be my guess of how this ends, but I'm also pretty pessimistic from.
Let's see. I'm curious now to see how it does end. I'm invested enough. I'm 20 Wax into this. I'll probably pull this shit out next week, honestly, or at least reduce it. But for now, 700%. It's calling me for my what's that called? For my degen stack of like reward tokens that I made this week.
Who knows? Maybe it is a legitimate creator trying to. It's a weird time to be building a staking game, farming game on Wax. I can't imagine someone with good intentions. Like if you've been building it for the last couple of years, that kind of makes sense. Like people that have been here the whole time, I'm like, okay, you're not abandoning your shit. That makes sense to me. But like launching a new project on Wax right now, like I feel like weird time to be launching a project, especially one that's like staking projects and farming projects are not the meta on Wax and have not been for like years. Like that shit you expect to launch up in 2021, 2022 when Farmer's World was cooking. Farming Tales, Farmer's World. There's like a bunch of, I don't know if Farming Tales is even the right one, but there's like the 3D one that was cooking for a minute.
Yeah. And even I feel like if you are going to use like the stake contracts from WaxDAO, which you just like, I don't have any issue with that, or using like the blend tools from Nefty, I would like embed them into like a web interface that at least looks more like, you know.
That's what I'm saying. The person who made that clearly is not a developer, nor are they an artist. Like I think like all those cards they made, I would be willing to bet are all
generative artwork.
Yeah. I mean, I guess they could not be, but I just looked at it quickly. I'm just like, this. Good. It doesn't have any sort of like personality or like, even if those aren't AI generated, it's not like, I don't know, not great art. But I don't know, weirder shit's happen. Like there's stuff like Mining World, where Mining World was like, oh, this is 100% a scam. They got blacklisted by Atomic Hub, and that shit still, people made money off of it for like 6 months after that. It ended up collapsing. Everything on Wax eventually collapses. So like, you're just playing hot potato with this. You're like, can I get the APY and sell it before this inevitably rugs or collapses? Because again, I don't want to be. I feel like every time I talk shit about a new project, the creators in our chat just like, come on, man. Like, I'm just trying out here, but like, I'm trying to be nice in case this person listens to this. But like, I would assume that this is not going to end well, and also probably doesn't have good intentions to begin with. That being said, like Max is just betting that he can sell it 1 week from now. Not that this thing is going to.
I'm playing the greater fool game. I think that we can get into this today, and that next week there's someone who's a bigger idiot than us that we can sell this shit to.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of where I'm at with this one.
All right, last call for this giveaway. And then I think we should wrap the wax stuff and maybe just look at Barra, since you did that Barra chain show
that's what I was
week.
say. Let's take a look at what happened with what we did, because last week we moved with 5,000 wax into Barra chain, and I want to see what happened with it. I haven't actually.
That was also unrelated to our wax wallet. That's your own individual.
Yeah, that's true. That was just from my. But I'm curious to know if it's worth more or less. If I were to bridge it all back, could I get more than 5,000 wax back now?
Or so much has happened in the last week. It's hard to say. With like the market pumped and then collapsed, and then also, I would guess it's worth more just because wax is like underperforming hardcore, and I would guess there's just some hype in the Barra token. So like, since are you like half in US dollar and then half in Barra?
Yeah, exactly.
I would guess Barra is outperforming wax as like a new hype blockchain compared to wax hitting all-time lows, but also wax is sort of in a weird spot where like it's already so low that it doesn't drop as far sometimes.
That I've noticed that too. Yeah, it doesn't drop quite as aggressively lately, but it's still taking pretty big hits. I could just literally Google the price of Barra. I'm just assuming Barra, the ecosystem, is doing well since it's new and hyped. Mono trying to grub split it into max. He missed, but Mono, you still won the prize. So bold strategy paid off. And we will send you 1 million woof. Double checking. Okay, actually I moved 10,000 wax.
And then
let's see how it did.
Maybe you gotta pop from Twitch. That setting message would have possibly bad words. The FU part, is that?
Oh, maybe.
Alcor like breaks my computer every time I open it. Like it freezes the browser. I don't know if that's a my browser problem or an Alcor problem, but it's happening consistently now. I feel like it didn't used to. Come on. Yes. Control V and address in there. Give me that wallet. I'm gonna flip back to max, but just know in the background I'm setting the price.
All right. Let's take a look at this. I'm going to go back to the main screen here before we...
I also will have another giveaway up in the background here. So if you'd like to join next giveaway, !neon in your wax wallet.
So last week we did, I think, we were introduced to and looked over this brand new blockchain that kind of like is a layer one launched through the Arbitrum, but is now its own layer one. You can kind of move from any EVM chains into this. Burst of Energy was the one who kind of like came in here talking about it. And so we looked at like the white paper, the kind of like overview of how its consensus algorithm works with rewarding liquidity providers in a token that is used to earn boost for proof of stake validators. So if a validator wants to get the highest possible return for their stake, they need to benefit the users, who in turn then will delegate their boost tokens to the most beneficial users. So let's participate in that nonsense and see how it goes. I'm on the Barachain hub here, so hub.barachain.com, and I've signed in with my wallet in the top already. And now I want to go over to Vaults, is where I was at. And we last week entered this Wrapped Barra Honey Vault. And I want to see when I click on it. First of all, I wish there was like a what is it called? Like a dashboard that just shows me what I have, because right now I have to know that I'm in this vault to actually see the balance. But you can see when I'm in here, I can see my stake tokens. There they are, 94, and this is 94 liquidity receipt tokens, not 94 like US dollars or anything. I'm not the biggest fan of the way this overview breaks down what I have. What I could do is here, let's see. I could probably find a better breakdown of this on DBank. DE Bank. Let's see. Just go dbank here on Google. Search a web address. Okay, that'll be. So just look for my wallet address here that I'm using for this. And Berachain. There it is. So we have $286 still on this Berachain. And you can see now in the actual wallet, I have still, 2 Bera tokens. It looks like $4 worth of the wrap Bera, like $3 worth of honey. I'm not sure where this J band came from, but that's new since last week. And then here you can actually see Bera Hub, and this is a liquidity position. So you can see it consists of 18 Bera and 131 honey. And then you can see there's actually a reward that it knows is here. And so there's a $263 in the liquidity pool is basically what it's saying. Now that we know that, we have a better overview of this. Now you can see here's this reward section, right? The BGT. It looks like I've made about $5 worth of BGT this week. Let's try claiming it. I'm curious how this all works. Connect wallet. Yes, that's the one. We'll say confirm.
What else is flashbang? Are you talking about the white screen? I'm all about Dark Reader myself. Shout out Dark Reader plugin that makes every screen dark screen.
Oh yeah, you're gonna hate my. Oh, I wonder if it. Actually, I don't think my Trezor screen pops up for you. That's also all white. But it pops up in a new window, and I'm not showing the second window. So okay.
Dark Reader's only annoying if you go, like, it doesn't play well with some websites that are default dark. It like tries to darken the already darkened, and you get like, where like certain things will be highlighted, and then they're just like grayed out because like the highlight is putting it into a color that doesn't play well with the dark screen. Like DraftKings is one that I do where I turn it off for that website because like, yeah, it's just a weird thing with like, there's like subdivisions, every other line's a slightly different color, and that goes away when the Dark Reader's on there. But I'd say 95 out of 100 times Dark Reader works pretty much flawlessly. If it doesn't, you can just turn it off on the specific website you're using.
There you go. Okay, so now I have BGT in my wallet, $5 worth.
Why don't we just check what 10k wax is worth? If it's worth more than DBank says.
I guess here we go. So here's everything I pulled over to Berachain. It's worth $286. And if we do 286, I moved 10,000 wax last week. Let's see. It's thinking. Hey, we're up 271 wax. So nothing crazy. Also, that's at a decent price impact, it looks like. It's only $282, it says. But hey, that's not bad. So we're 2% higher than we would have been had we just held the wax. Which, I'll take that.
In a week, not bad.
Yeah, I'll take that any day. That's great. Okay, but now, so I've withdrawn this, and I'm curious, how do I use my BGT to get those incentives from those validators? So I'm going to click on this validator tab. That's probably where that is, right? My boosts?
And Bera is up 7% in the last 24 hours.
Nice.
Let me just check the 7-day chart.
Results.
Once we're back on.
Huge boosts, all available.
Actually down, I think, slightly from when you bought in.
I think so too, but then again, everything.
I think wax is just down worse.
Yeah. I don't see any like rewards being offered by anyone here. It says BGT emissions. Staked. Can I let's see if I want to delegate my BGT to this person.
Your boost, I think is how you do that.
So it's right here. BGT available. I have 0.7. I have no queued boost currently. I'm just going to try clicking boost. Let's see what happens here. Oh, okay, here. So max boost. Queue it. Let's see what this does. Next week we'll see if we got anything.
What is this actually doing?
Right, let's try it. I don't know.
I mean, I guess the other thing you could do is just turn it into liquid and then sell 50% and then just compound.
That's true. So
this is BeraHub, I believe, is the website, right?
Yeah, berahub.com. Hub.berachain.com. Here, I can give a quick copy that over here.
Are you posting it? I'm trying to find the link.
I just posted it in the chat here.
Yeah, Bear is its own blockchain. It's new. It's been around for like 3 weeks or something. So this is all very new. But if you look at like the locked liquidity, like it has a pretty crazy total value locked for a chain that's only been around for a couple weeks.
Yeah, let's look at the chains here. This is the DeFi ecosystem as projected by DeFi Llama. You can see total value locked across the different DeFi chains here. And so you can, for example, Ethereum mainnet has
50% of all of the shit locked.
Yeah,
a little more.
Let's go to chains. It has an insane amount. Let's see, active addresses.
Bear is number 6 right now.
Yeah, $51 billion on mainnet.
That's sort of insane that it's above Base and Arbitrum and Avalanche and like all these very heavy hitters.
Polygon, like there's big.
Polygon, I don't think of as much for DeFi though.
That's true. Although Polygon is sitting on $700 million in liquidity, which is not crazy for a chain that has its own token, honestly. But yeah, Berachain, $3.4 billion. If we look at the Berachain breakdown, where is that money? Well, first of all, if we look at here cumulative. Oh, this is already it. As you can see, that came up very quickly. It went from like 0 to 1.5 billion in the first day. Huge amounts of volume, or not volume, but liquidity depth. And then if we go here, you can see Inferred Finance, the liquid staking app, is the one that has quite the most liquidity. That's the same on Ethereum too. You have like Lido Protocol is probably the number one product there. And then we have, like Bex, which is going to be where we were just on. Dolomite is a lending platform.
We didn't see Barabaro. Looks like some sort of Berachain borrowing platform.
Oh yes, CDP.
That's got a lot of money locked into it. 400 million.
Yeah, so you can always, if you want to know what these things are, just click on them, and it'll give you a quick overview. Like Barabaro unlocks instant liquidity against Berachain assets through first proof of liquidity powered stablecoin. Okay, so they're making it's like CDP is a stable coin, like it's something like Overnight Finance is a CDP project too. But yeah, if you want to go there, and you just click here, and we can jump on over to it.
Also, if you're getting into Bera, Honey is their actual stable coin.
Like this,
right? Isn't Honey like the?
Yes, Honey.
If you lock in USDC, you can mint Honey.
I also thought that was. I didn't like whatever I was doing. I also like that the Honey token is collateralized only by 2 other assets. It's USDC, which I trust as a stablecoin, and the other one is PYUSD, which is PayPal's USDC. It's PayPal's stablecoin. So it trades on this chain as BY USD. So if you go like up here, you should be able to BY. That's just Berachain wrapped PayPal USD. So one of the deepest liquidity stablecoins on here, other than USDC, is PayPal's stablecoin, which is interesting. I mean, it's not a fly-by-night nonsense operation. PayPal, they've been around.
I mean, I would say this entire chain. The surprising thing is like you'd think if it has like that much liquidity, it's like, oh, what is this Solana? And they just have like 9 million meme coins that are like pumping the numbers of this. That's not really the case on Berachain though. It's like very few tokens and mostly very legitimate ones. So the fact that they moved that much money of like I mean, the Bera token is obviously like a little inflated for the value, but like, oh, that's wrapped Bitcoin, wrapped ETH. Honey has to be backed by USDC. So like, those are all very legitimate tokens to have that much money. I don't know.
Yeah.
And almost like, I don't know how they did it so fast. And that kind of scares me just as a user. It's like, seems too good to be true, but like, I don't know.
They did have a several month test net and a scale up thing that just I wasn't participating in. So
we also read through all the shit. Like it seems very legitimate as far as like the documents go. Like everything is very open source, very like I don't know. There's no red flags when I was reading through this.
I agree. Here's the core docs. I'm showing those in the chat as well. If you want to read through these, it's really interesting.
We also, if you go to our YouTube, last week we went through this for like an hour. So if you want to watch like we also we had never heard of this, so we went from literally not having heard of it to like Max moving money over there. So if you want to longer, like from the top of what is this, trying to figure out what it is, go check out that video on demand.
Yeah, exactly. Because we walk through moving from Wax into this chain and participating in this stuff.
It also is not our original.
Like you're saying, here's some of the TVLs in these LPs. So like USDC-E, which is .E is Ethereum mainnet, USDC, paired with their Honey token, there's almost $200 million in liquidity just in that pool, almost $500 million in their BYUSD one.
And that's all because Honey is also backed by USD, so that's basically all. These are all stable. 600 million of just stable coins.
Yeah, so decent volume or liquidity there, and then Bera with Honey says is a native token asset. Bera, this is the one what we're farming right now. Almost $100 million in liquidity there, and then of course the volume is actually pretty substantial on the like actual crypto assets. While looking at the volume of the stablecoin pools, it's like non-existent. Like there's $250 in 24-hour volume against $500 million in liquidity.
Makes sense though. It's not changing in value, and also like you're probably
really
handling that business before you get to Bera. You're not trading into.
Yeah, I think the vast majority of trading volume against stablecoins on this chain happens against Honey. So if you look at a lot of these bigger pools, they're going to be paired like you know, USBR looks like another like stablecoin. They have a couple stablecoin pools, but most of the Honey pairs are going to be paired with, you know, like Bera chain, and then you have like Bitcoin in those. And like we said, you can go to DeFi.
You go back to that thing you like. Did it change anything once you boosted that thing?
Oh yes, it did. It said it's now pending. So if I go to validators again, I went to this top guy, and then here there's a queued boost now. So I boosted mine. It says 4 hours and 31 minutes until confirmation is available. And then I guess once it's confirmed, then I will start earning the incentives paid by this block producer.
Curious why it says 0 return per BGT though.
Yeah, that I'm not super sure about either. There is something here that will kind of give us a sense of what the BGT APR can be, and that is, if we look again at a DeFi Llama, this inferred finance, the biggest thing on here. This is like Lido protocol for Bera chain. So if we go over to inferred, you can see this is a proof of liquidity, $1.5 billion in TVL. But this is a place where you can do like Bera is the token. So this is staked Bera. So this is like, instead of staking it yourself and doing whatever, like this is, you know, you can delegate your staking to the, like similar to like LS Wax or LS.
So this is letting them vote for which validators.
Yeah, exactly. So this will always be worth at least 1-to-1 with Bera, but it'll be worth more than that because it's like, you know, 8% of it is
6.5%. That's pretty similar to staking Wax, if that's what you're looking for.
So that's not bad, but that's also for staking Bera.
0% risk for a counter.
That's true, because this will always be exposed to Bera, but this is going to be similar to, if you see here, these validators. The validators themselves are staking. You see under the stake tab, they're staking Bera tokens in order to be validators, right? And they are then earning Bera tokens for doing this. What we are trying to do is boost their stake by staking our BGT to them. And that's also been liquidized here with iBGT. And you can see the BGT reward yield is 81%. Which, and then also it pays out in...
That's percentage staked. That's not the reward percent.
Oh, okay, you're right. APR is over 100%. It's quite decent. And the other side of this is, if you have this BGT token, the APR gets paid out in Honey and Bera. So you're getting paid in the mix of stable coins and Bera tokens, which that's kind of cool. And then if you want this to be on autopilot, like I don't have a crazy huge position right now in this chain, what you can do then is go and use a aggregator like Beefy Finance here, where you can see they've added Bera chain. And if I go to all, here's all the different pools available on Bera chain, but you can see iBGT is one of them. And if you stake, instead of staking on inferred finance here directly, where you'll then be earning Honey and Bera, if you instead take your iBGT tokens and stake them here, you'll be automatically harvesting the stake rewards and buying more iBGT with them. So this is like an auto compounding way to hold this token. And then you can see, it's saying APY, which is why it's higher. But over here we're looking at APR. So it's earning the
honestly,
same APR.
150% is pretty fucking good.
Yeah, exactly. So you just kind of sit here and like, I think I put 180 BGT tokens into this. I can switch over to a wallet that I do this on. Here you go. I put 180 and now there's 183 in here. My goal is to let this farm until there's 200 and then pull them back over so I can start earning stable coins with it and get back my like initial APR or initial value. And then here's that same pool that we had before, only on one of my wallets where I have some liquidity in this pool. And then instead of letting it just earn me BGT tokens, which are soul bound, and then I have to claim every now and then and stake them, this is automatically claiming those BGT soul bound tokens, selling them into Bera, and then putting the Bera into this liquidity pool. And so similarly here, you can see if I do like, I don't know, like I guess I have to go to my dashboard, and you can see like since I jumped into this last week, this has earned like $100 in yield. Oh, wait, that's not the right pool. This top one has earned $40 in yield. That makes more sense to auto compound, but obviously with the price action moving, the profit and loss is negative right now on these pools, on several of these pools actually. This one's the only one that's in profit right now. But these are not like short-term swing positions. These are liquidity farm pools that I'm just letting cook. And so this is another way that you can kind of automate that kind of stuff. If you come to beefy.com, and then again, all chains on the Bera chain, you can see you can participate in these pools and then let Beefy kind of manage it for you and put it onto autopilot. But very interesting. I think this is a really cool like concept, and I really think it's fun to see that we came back a week later, we've made $5, and we were able to claim those. We're able to delegate them. We now have the delegation counting down, and we'll be able to see what this actually produces for us by participating in the actual steps of this manually versus using an auto compounder to kind of like harvest and queue all that stuff for us. I guess automatically. So like making those decisions for us.
I'm flipping back over to our last giveaway of the day.
Damn.
Exclamation point Neon in your Wax wallet. Parachain is definitely cool. Cool stuff. And if you missed last week, it's all about like proof of liquidity. The main blockchains right now are proof of work and proof of stake. Proof of work is when you have to mine shit. You're running hardware to push all the, I don't know, I'm bad at explaining it. Proof of work, proof of stake, and then this new one's proof of liquidity, where if you hold liquidity, you're supposed to be able to run the chain that way and have impact. And like, the users can actually vote for stuff, and it's not all run by blockchain producers.
Exactly. It's like in traditional like mining or consensus algorithms, you have the miners or the block producers or whatever doing their thing while the users on the blockchain do their thing. With an infrastructure like this, the goal is to align the interests of the users with the interests of the block producers. And so it's an interesting concept. We'll see if it actually amounts to much more than just another like flash in the pan, but for now I think it's pretty interesting, and I'm excited to move 10,000 wax over and see how it cooks.
Yeah, it's definitely cool. I like it in theory. It's hard to know with any of this stuff in practice. Like, really only time tells if it'll work. But I said it last week. By the time you can tell if it works, you're kind of late. 2,000 late, as they like to call it, as far as like investments go. So you're definitely kind of gambling getting in super early, but that's also part of the fun, I think. Like getting into something within like a month of it launching, like could very well go down, could very well go up, but that's part of the fun.
So have to roll the dice a little bit and see how we do.
See, tomorrow we'll be doing I don't know how many off the rails videos we have queued up. If we don't have a lot, I was thinking maybe tomorrow we could play Marvel Rivals or something.
Yeah, I want to play that. Tomorrow I have made an appointment with my tax to do my taxes. This is the only day I have was tomorrow, and it's at like 2 o'clock, but in Downey. I'm not sure
how long you going to Downey for.
to meet my tax person, like a CPA guy who helps me go through all this. I do a lot of crypto shit, and they always hate doing my taxes. But I sit with them and we go through it for like a couple hours.
And maybe on Friday we'll stream then.
Yeah, I'd be more into that. Do a little game stream on Friday again. But tomorrow's tax day. It's almost tax season. We gotta.
I did hear that everybody in Los Angeles has because of the fires, we all have automatic accepted extensions. Don't know how true that is. I would definitely check another source before taking my word for it, but I heard that on a comedy podcast, so must be true.
That's fun. I mean, overwhelmingly, I think like if you like the way I do my taxes, I generally overpay them like throughout the year, like quarterly, and then at the end of the year in my return I get the money back. And so even if I'm late for filing my taxes, there's no penalties if they owe you money. The penalties come in when like you owe them money and you don't pay them.
Project Zomboid. What the fuck is that?
Project Zomboid.
Seems like something you should remind us tomorrow or on Friday. Seems like it's getting us off the rails.
This looks pretty hilarious, actually.
But it says raccoons, new traits, and more added in Project Zomboid build 42 or it looks like a very indie.
Top-down zombie apocalypse survival, Quadrell says.
This looks pretty sick, though. This reminds me of like remember like the original Rainbow Sixes? Because like before Rainbow Six was a first-person shooter, it was like a top-down tactical shooter where you controlled an entire squad and you're trying to like there'd be like terrorists and hostages in a building and you'd control your crew and have to like have them kick down the doors and like flashbang and stuff. That's what this reminds me of.
Yeah, it does kind of. It's giving what's that called? Command and Conquer vibes too.
A little bit. I can't tell like what all this shit's from. HD 11 years ago they announced this.
Quadrell's going hard. He says he's thinking about making renting servers to run it 24/7. Don't you can't you just run your own computer? My shit's always on anyway. I can run server from my computer.
I mean, this looks cool. Yeah. How much does it cost?
I do like the fog of war kind of like darkness.
It's $20.
Okay, that's reasonable.
Might be down to buy it. I'm playing Dinkum again.
I want to try that Marvel Rival games too.
I might add it to like my my wish list. Seems like a game that if I could get for half off. Holy fuck! It was released November 8th in 2013. How'd you even find this? It's like a 12-year-old indie game, which I guess they're still developing if there's a bunch of new videos on it. But
he says he got it for his birthday and is loving it. Damn, somebody's hooking you up with like old school shit. They probably know what you like.
But I feel like this will go on sale for like $8 at some point if you... I'm adding it to my my wish list.
Yeah.
I've been playing a lot of Dinkum. Finally got like... It's still an early access game, fucking 12 years in. Just call it the game at this point. Yeah, Dinkum, I was working on like an iron farm, so I don't have to go down in the mines to get those. And like the amount of hours I spent building that is insane. But now, like pretty much every time I wake up in game, I have like more minerals. Now I'm selling minerals every day because I have too many minerals. I'm like at a net positive. I have more minerals that I can use to build, so it's been fun. I'm saving up for a tractor. The tractor costs 1,500,000 dinks, which is a lot of money in that game.
Sheesh.
I don't like to have under 1 million dinks in my bank, so I'm getting up to 2.5 million dinks.
Damn.
The bank also gives you interest, so I like to leave my million dinks in the bank, earning me interest every day.
Oh,
this and Minecraft are two games, what it will make for hosted servers. Yeah, I might be down to try this, but we're thinking maybe more immediately playing Marvel Rivals. If anybody wants to try to do that with us.
More immediately, I'm going to DDoS attack your server. No.
Marvel Rivals.
Yeah, I do want to play Marvel Rivals.
I have 5 hours of gameplay, so I'm very good. Pretty much like a professional, so come get carried by me. Not really, but
I know all the moves.
I haven't even played with all the characters yet. I do think I can't figure out a tank I like because most of the tanks are melee, and I'm trying to find like a range tank. But then the range guy I was playing I didn't like, so I don't know. I like playing healers the best so far, like the raccoon dude. Is he a raccoon?
Yeah, Rocket Raccoon.
He's not an actual raccoon though, right?
He's an actual raccoon.
Isn't he like a little yellow dude?
I mean, in the comics, he's like a augmented, like he's been like taken apart by the what's his name? Fuck, what's that guy's name? The High Evolutionary or whatever his character is in the comics. He's like the guy who created the Golden People as well. What are they called? Like the people that created Adam Warlock were created by.
Okay, so yeah, it is him.
High Evolutionary, and he's a raccoon, and he was created by the High Evolutionary. God damn, comic book nerdum.
The Vanguards are tank. It's Vanguard Duelist Strategist, and that's basically like tank DPS support. But the tanks are Bruce Banner, he's melee. Captain America, also melee. Doctor Strange, that's who I tried playing. He has like a ranged attack, but he's funky. I couldn't figure him out. Groot is also melee. Magneto, I think, might be ranged. Maybe that's who I need to try out. Penny Parker, I do not know. She related to Peter Parker?
Penny?
Oh, she's the alternative version of Spider-Man from Evangeline.
Oh, she is. Yeah, she is like an anime version of Spider-Man who has like a spider mech that she pilots. She's from like she shows up in like across the Spider-Verse.
Then there's The Thing, Thor, and Venom. Those are your tanks. I've been playing The Thing and Venom are kind of my mains right now. But that's also because there's like a quest where it's like you needed to get 20,000 damage as the Thing, so that's why I was playing him more than I like him. And then also like Invisible Woman is currently my favorite player. She's dope. Like if you hit spacebar twice, she hits like an invisible trampoline and shoots through the sky and becomes invisible. So it's like a very good, if you're in the shit and you just double click and jump in the opposite direction of where they're shooting, you're like, it's like that. There's a healer in Paladins where his escape move, you would turn invisible and run faster, and you became like invulnerable. You're not invulnerable as the Invisible Woman, but it's a very similar like get out of dodge.
It sounds more like Moira's phase move.
Except it lasts until you attack, so you're invisible until you attack or get attacked.
Oh, okay.
And you move quicker.
More like Sombra.
Yeah, we might play that on Friday.
Rock Metal's talking shit.
I might even play it tonight, to be honest.
I do want to try it. I still have to download it, but that's so up my alley. I love
He doesn't like being called a raccoon, but was made from one.
Yeah, he does get upset when you call him a raccoon. But he's definitely a raccoon. There's a whole origin story for him in the third Guardians of the Galaxy. I thought it was horribly sad. Kind of fucked up, like animal cruelty stuff going on that wasn't really fun to watch in my opinion. But there is an origin story if you want to know Rocket Raccoon's origin. It's
Quadrell says you would, if I'm around, he'd love to join us. You did not reach the level for ranked yet. Max hasn't even played a single game, so Max.
Yeah,
I don't think I've reached a level for ranked either, but I don't think that's an issue.
Yeah, in the comic book, by the way, the origin for Rocket Raccoon is kind of different. Where it's like he's like basically he's a service animal on a planet that is like populated entirely by like mentally ill people. It's like a mental asylum. The whole planet is like a mental health asylum, and there's these like augmented like basically helper animals that are built to help manage this planet, and he like leads a revolution of those creatures and escapes the planet in the comics. It's different than his origin story in the Guardians of the Galaxy. But the third movie I thought was it wasn't bad, but it was sad and just kind of dark in a way that wasn't very funny.
Are you talking Guardians of the Galaxy 3?
Yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
I don't know if I saw that one. I saw the first one. I at least saw part of the second one, but
I think the High Evolutionary was the bad guy in Guardians 3.
I've heard the soundtrack to that movie way more than I've seen it. That was on your like YouTube algorithm for a while, where it was like the Guardians of the Galaxy mixtape.
Yeah,
heard that so many times.
Volume 3 or whatever. Yeah, the soundtracks to those movies are fire.
So I've heard that more than I've seen the movie, but that's within like those movies are goofy and silly enough. So you got Mr. Chris Pratt in there, and I feel like those are like within my taste of Marvel movies, where they're a little sillier. Although I feel like it still is like over the top space.
Yeah, it definitely
drama.
is. Those are really fun though, and I thought they did a good job with the bad guy, but he's just like he gets. I don't know. I mean, without spoiling anything, he's a more of a bad guy in the comic books. He's a much bigger like villain than he ends up being. Like in this franchise, he's like a one movie villain. In the comics, he's like a several comic arc villain. But go check it out. Oh, gonna watch Daredevil? Yes, Random King. I got to. I've seen ads for that shit everywhere.
Use the Guardians vinyl for testing. I didn't know they made that in a vinyl. That's pretty sick. Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack on vinyl.
That is pretty cool.
It
is a good.
I haven't seen like somebody own a soundtrack in a long time. As far as like, we used to buy them back before you could stream shit. Like, I remember we had the Godzilla 2000 soundtrack. We had the Beavis and Butthead Do America soundtrack. Like, my dad was big onto buying CDs of soundtracks and compilations, but I feel like maybe for like Disney movies, but like even that, I think people are streaming now. Like, I don't know that people are buying CDs for their kids.
The Watchmen also had a kick-ass soundtrack, in my opinion. If you the movie,
I just remember they had Hallelujah by Leonard Cohen, and that was really impactful.
Yeah, they had that one. Times They Are Changing by Bob Dylan is on there.
Times they are changing. Gather around people that you know.
Jimi Hendrix.
I wish I knew like any of the words of that.
All Along the Watchtower was on there too. That was a good soundtrack. The Watchmen was great.
It's another Bob Dylan song, but performed by.
Yeah, that's a Bob Dylan cover, but
I think that was Jimi Hendrix's biggest hit in America too. Like his only hit was I don't know. That's some off the rails talk. But yeah, I believe Jimi Hendrix is technically a one-hit wonder in America. He only ever had one hit song, even though his albums were like he had multiple top 20 albums. Like I remember that being just a weird tidbit where it's like, excuse me, like Jimi Hendrix is a one-hit wonder. Like he's a legend. Usually you don't think of
that's insane.
Music heroes, but like technically,
I think Sound of Silence was on there too, and so was Me and Bobby McGee by Janis Joplin on the Watchmen soundtrack. I don't know, that was just
very 60s centric. Everything you just listed is like a mid 60s song.
The whole like Watchmen like movie story kind of takes place Vietnam War like era, so the soundtrack fits well.
All right, who are we rating? Let's rate into MJ Owns You.
Oh, I know that song, Random King. What is that? I'm going through changes.
Black Sabbath.
That sounds dope. That's the Random King says he's loved the intro song to the big show Big Mouth. Yeah, they did the version of it for Big Mouth is the version of it that I had heard first, actually, and it's really fucking good.
It's not a popular Black Sabbath song. Also, that version isn't for Big Mouth. Like, that's a Charles Bradley record that came out like years before Big Mouth.
I was gonna say I heard that song way before I ever saw Big Mouth, and I was like,
but I think Charles Bradley might have been dead by the time Big Mouth came out. I remember I saw him do that live, and he was like, "It's fucking." It's a punch in the gut because he covered it like after his mom died. He's like, I've been living with my mom. And he was old at the time too. Like he was in his 60s and he was like living with his mom until she's in her 80s. And then like
Damn.
Like after she died, then he's like, oh, like the lyrics to the song spoke to me in a different way. So weirdly, that song's about. It's written, I think, by the bassist of Black Sabbath, and it was after he went through a divorce. So it's about like going through a divorce for the first, like going through a big change in your life after being with the same person for a long time, and then like. But when Charles Bradley did, he's like, no, I'm singing about this about my dead mom. So it's like a much more, I guess, like morbid. It's a different kind of sadness, and then it works very well for going through like puberty changes as well. For
yeah,
the lyrics are vague enough that it works in multiple scenarios. But yeah,
the visuals of that opening sequence are pretty fucking funny too. Like the little like animation of like people's bodies like changing and stuff is fun.
It's also pretty unconventional for a Black Sabbath song. Like, honestly, it's not that different. Like, it is way different than like a Motown era soul version, but the Black Sabbath version is pretty much just like singing and piano. Like, it's not like super heavy. When you think of Black Sabbath, you don't think of like a piano ballad, but
that's true too.
Yeah, I would say Charles Bradley kind of kicked the shit out of Ozzy as far as vocal performances goes on that.
Yeah. That's almost like what is it? Like the Joe Cocker version of
Little Help from My Friends.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a better version though, personally.
I don't think it's a better version, but like the first time I heard that too, I was like, God damn.
I do think the Charles Bradley version of Changes is better than the original though. Like
I agree.
Like Charles Bradley made that his song.
Same way that I'm pretty sure Bob Dylan agrees that Jimi Hendrix's version of All Along the Watchtower was the superior version. I'm pretty sure I saw Bob Dylan was like, yeah, his version's better than mine.
It's one of the most iconic guitar solos like of the 60s. And also it's not like Bob Dylan is a crazy it's not like the Bob Dylan version is known as like, holy shit, like his vocal performance on that is so good. It's like, yeah, it's Bob Dylan, like it's all right.
Yeah.
It's got some out-of-tune harmonica and some wailing.
Yeah. Monostrate, it is the Joe Cocker version of Little Help from My Friends is from the Wonder Years intro. So yes, you know it if that's the version you're thinking.
Joe Cocker's kind of like, I tried to get into him, just like, this is just like,
it's so hard to try to like sing that at a karaoke. You just have to like smoke a whole pack of cigarettes first.
It's just soul music, but like a white, like that's like, he wants to be Otis Redding or like any of the gospel soul singers that were famous in like the late 50s, early 60s. Like it's just that, but over like San Francisco psychedelic shit. And it's just like, to me, it's not as good as the rock stuff and also not as good as the soul stuff. It's just like a worse version of both. But for a minute, I don't know. When I was like in my 60s, I love everything from the late 60s psychedelic phase. I was like, Joe Cocker's the shit. But then I got into soul music, and I feel like getting into soul music, I see what he's trying to do. It's just, he's okay. I'm pretty sure he's British too, right? He's like the long line of British artists trying to rip off American blues and soul music. But definitely interesting also that like that's probably the biggest song in his career. It's like a super overdone cover of a Beatles song, which is just a strange thing to like be known for, but I don't know. We're way off the rails. Let's right into MJ Owns You. We can continue the discussion on Friday. If anyone wants to hang out and play games with us on Friday, hit us up. I'm linking our Discord if anybody has questions or wants to hang between now and then. New Counter-Strike tournament starts on Friday. ESL Pro League Stage 2. The play-in's just finished. I'm excited about that.
Plus, that weird crypto conference is this Friday too. So we'll see. We'll see what goes on. We can poke in on that when we get too off the rails.
I'm sort of waiting for I'm not trying to, if they're streaming that shit, I'm not trying to watch the whole thing. I want to see the review of the after it's done. Have somebody give me the bullet points. But is trivia tomorrow or on Friday for Woofy trivia? I don't know. We'll talk to you all later. Have a great evening. See you on Friday. Hit us on Discord if you have questions or comments.
Yeah. Happy Wednesday. What would you do if I